We begin today with the big news, the biggest news story on the weaponization front, and it comes from another part of the government, the U.S. intelligence agencies. Because while it is nearly impossible to choose for you the most dangerous among all of Donald Trump's radical and outrageous and sycophantic personnel choices over the last 18 months, that is no longer a kind of Sophie's Choice thing. It's now abundantly clear what the most radical and dangerous personnel decision is. Today, it happened. And at a time when our country is at war with Iran and facing nearly unprecedented geopolitical, economic, and technological threats and challenges from literally every corner of the globe, Donald Trump this morning put a man named Bill Pulte atop America's intelligence agencies. He will now serve, as of today, as America's acting director of national intelligence. Now, some of you out there might be thinking, big deal. Tulsi Gabbard had that job until 15 minutes ago. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong to have that reaction. But while Tulsi Gabbard sullied her reputation by participating in an FBI raid of election offices in Fulton County, Georgia, Pulte has been taking far more audacious actions as a taxpayer-funded federal employee. So here's who Pulte is. Right now, he's a housing guy. He's currently got the title of Director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency and Chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. To get this part out of the way, Bill Pulte has zero experience in national security or intelligence or foreign policy or military. And this is the one job in our government, the most senior one, that was created in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks to keep Americans safe. So that job is now going to be done by Bill Pulte. And Pulte's obvious and glaring and deeply concerning lack of any intelligence or national security or foreign policy or military experience was met with outrage from Democrats and some deeply uncomfortable hot takes from Republicans. Watch.
I believe it puts the country at risk. I think it puts Americans at risk. And the audacity, he doesn't even have no intelligence background. He's got no national security background. And if you politicize intelligence, you end up in wars, you end up being less secure.
At a time of growing threats around the world, this nomination raises a fundamental question. Is the president looking for independent intelligence or political validation?
Do you think that Bill Pulte has the experience to be the acting DNI, and same with you, Senator Cotton, as the chairman of the Intelligence Committee? Is he the kind of person you want leading the Intelligence Committee?
I'll defer to the chairman on that.
We have 4 more weeks with Director Gabbard as the DNI.
And Pulte's
I have no observations on the matter.
My understanding is the Senate doesn't have a role in confirmation of an acting director, but
would you like one?
I see no evidence of any qualifications for that job.
When your answer is, we get Tulsi for 4 more weeks, yay, you're not happy about the new guy. Now, the new guy, the housing guy, Mr. Pulte, is very accomplished in one category. He is perhaps the most prolific foot soldier in the retribution campaign being waged by Donald Trump. He is, politically speaking, defined by a proven track record of unwavering loyalty to Donald Trump's darkest ambitions. He's taken it upon himself to be Trump's guy. Washington Post describes Pulte this way as a, quote, prominent Trump sidekick. Wall Street Journal reports that some people in the Trump administration have labeled Pulte, quote, little Trump. As the Federal Housing Finance Director, this person, Mr. Pulte, pushed DOJ to pursue cases against Trump's perceived political enemies, weaponizing bogus mortgage fraud allegations against New York Attorney General Letitia James, Senator Adam Schiff, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, and Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Perhaps most alarmingly, he's coming in at a time when Donald Trump has proven he is actively working to get the DNI's hands on domestic election oversight and interference projects of his own in this country As we said, Tulsi Gabbard sullied her record forever, her legacy, when she showed up at a DOJ raid of Fulton County's elections warehouse, an operation she later testified Donald Trump told her to oversee. Well, Pulte is fired up and ready to go on that front and clearly willing to pick up where Tulsi Gabbard left off. It's where we begin today with some of our favorite experts and friends. Former CIA director and our senior national security and intelligence analyst, John Brennan's here. Also joining us, former DHS chief of staff during Donald Trump's first term, Miles Taylor's here. And rounding out our esteemed panel, political analyst, host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller's here. Tim, I'm going to start with you because there's nothing for an intelligence person to say about this person. This is a political hack, and he's now the DNI. What happens next?
You're correct. I mean, he's the most, this is a person, there's never been somebody with this little experience being nominated for a cabinet level job in the history of the Republic, honestly. And that includes the Secretary of War that was a former weekend talk show host, right? I mean, at least Pete Hegseth was in the military. Bill Pulte has no experience by this at all. Calling him a political hack is even, kind of too kind to him. I mean,
it's like mean to us political hacks.
Yeah, right. And he was a corrupt grifter. He didn't really have any skills in politics. He really didn't demonstrate any skills in politics besides sucking up to Donald Trump. I mean, among the other things he was doing was, if you remember during the pandemic, the kind of meme stock push where people were pushing up random stocks like GameStop that had no value and running up their stock number, and then there'd be a rug pull, and the big investors would make money and the regular investors would lose their shirt. Bill Pulte was one of the people that was involved in that. He's done the same thing with crypto rug pulls, promoting worthless. I don't know if I can say the word S coins, and having people invest in these worthless coins, and where he makes money and his friends make money and regular people lose their money, and then at the Federal Housing Agency, the main thing he did was use his access to mortgage documents. He also made himself the head of Freddie and Fannie to go after Trump's political foes. And that's like the extent of his political work, actually, going after political foes with dubious attacks based on the way that they filed their mortgage documents. So that is this guy's track record. And that's why he's been chosen to run DNI, because he showed that he would do what Trump wants, which is use the power of the government to go after political foes and try to find things about them that can, cause them problems. And the good news about this is that Lisa Cook and Tish James are still unfazed, and Adam Schiff by, his efforts to dig through their mortgage documents and make sure they dotted the I's and crossed their T's. But hopefully he'll be that ineffective at DNI. But I don't think that, I don't think that he's in this job to actually do the job of the Director of National Intelligence. Not only does he not have intelligence, I don't think that he's brought in there to do that. I think that Marco Rubio and, the other people in Donald Trump's national security team will continue to do that work. I think he's in there to do the dirty work, to do this sole job of now using his expanded access to the information about Americans to try to go after Donald Trump's political foes. I think that will be basically his only duty there. And he's going to have 210 days to do it, because that's the length that you can be in acting cabinet level, in an acting cabinet level position, barring some intervention from Republicans in the Senate, which I don't expect.
Well, Director Brennan, we already heard the threshold for Thune and Cornyn to intervene. They're talking about, Thune says, quote, he'll have to go through a confirmation process. No, he won't. Ms. Tim just said he has 210 days to be there as an acting. I don't imagine they'll put him up and put him through a confirmation process. Donald Trump can have him do whatever he wants him to do in an acting capacity without being vetted, without being confirmed. And I wonder if you let your imagination run a little wild, how much damage he can do there.
Well, a lot of damage, Nicole. And I must admit that Donald Trump has outdid himself. I didn't think it was possible to find someone less qualified than Tulsi Gabbard to be Director of National Intelligence, but Trump actually has. And so this is the person who serves as the president's principal intelligence advisor. That's in statute. That's in law. And so what signal does this send? First of all, to places like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. It shows a total disregard and disrespect for the whole intelligence community of the United States. What signal does it send to our allies and partners? Trump does not care about intelligence. He puts someone like this, wholly unqualified, without any intelligence experience, to be the head of the 18 intelligence agencies, to try to orchestrate them, to make sure that they are delivering for the American people and national security. And what message does it send to the workforce of the intelligence community? He cares so little about the intelligence community. He puts someone like a Bill Pulte, who's a charter member of the Trump Lick-Spittle Club, has no qualifications whatsoever, to actually be the leader for these, number of days or whatever. And yes, he doesn't have to be confirmed by the Senate. But again, the signal it sends to our adversaries, to our allies, to the workforce, it shows that Trump is really intent not just on disregarding the work of the intelligence community, but I think really destroying it.